I'm Gary Waterman. Welcome to part 6 of my evidential research document in relation to the company called the Satanic Temple United Kingdom. This now irrefutably links a satanic cult to the international government fraud and an infiltration of all faith groups and an international collaborative deception over a system of fraud that is linked to taxation and other financial matters, which enables them to defraud and exploit billions of people, but also a system that deliberately facilitates crimes against humanity, including international conflicts and terrorism offences. All of the terrorism offences that I've looked at that the world know about all go back to the same companies now from the research. And also this system they have in place allows the most awful crimes against children, the most innocent of all, in their abuse, torture for adrenochrome in their blood, and their murder. And I'm doing this video again because I made some mistakes when I did it last time verbally. So we're going to have a quick look again at this email that I received on the 22nd of June 2024 from somebody claiming to have been ex-military and being given a mission from Princess Diana. And the reason I'm mentioning this again is it becomes relevant in a moment. And the main message was that in 1994, I was given a mission that about now, regardless of circumstances, I shall come out shouting 4 words on behalf of Diana, Prince of Wales. King Charles is Satan. The mission was authorised by Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. And he was given that, according to this, in 2019, the year of the outbreak, in Wuhan, which all ties in to what is now being exposed. Now, remember, at the very foundation of this, it's an absolute fact that we have a financial system that is criminal and linked now to a satanic cult. At the very foundation of this. This has then facilitated all of the world's problems. And it's evil. It's pure evil, causing suffering to humanity and in particular the children. So I had this email. This was in, as I've said, June 2024. There was a couple of other correspondence because I responded asking for a bit more information. And they put this at the bottom. First of all, they confirm that the Queen was friends with Diana, and not to believe anything that's said to the contrary. But also, number 2 there, he put, no one puts a hit out on a royal princess and gets away with it. No one. So there's a reason I'm showing this now, because we're going to continue the document and see how that relates to it as we move forward. I just want to have another quick look at this company because this is so important, the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. And I know we've mentioned it in the earlier part, but it links to Bates, Wells and Braithwaite, which then ties into the Madeleine McCann case and Keir Starmer. Moving down, it had very important companies on it at the bottom, including the Ingenious Film Partners 2 LLP. This is at the bottom of the incorporation document. You can go and look at it. It also had Lloyds Bank Group PLC, Lloyds TSB. Now, I acquired forged Lloyds Bank documents through Export Manor Freehold Limited, remember? It also has the Hakluyt International Advisory Board company on it, which links the Russian government into this international collaborative deception against humanity, now tying with a satanic cult. That company has since dissolved after I've exposed it. Now, on the release of this evidence and the threat of directed energy through the mobile communication systems, on the 14th of May 2024, this portrait of the king was released and unveiled publicly. 14th of May 2024. Please go and check it. Now, within that image, there appears to be a inverted, if it loads up. Oh, it's further down. Sorry. An inverted face with horns coming out of it. You can see it there. Sorry, I'm moving around on the document a bit there. And that appears to be the face of the Baphomet, or the head of the Baphomet, which is a symbol of the Church of Satan, all tying into this now. And you can see the Star of David on the top. And Donald Trump is all part of this as well, He's part of this. And you will see in the evidence of the Church of Satan that they have MAGA, or MAGA, I don't know how you pronounce it, is the highest position within the different phases within the Church of Satan. And if you look back at MAGA, M-A-G-A, many of the US presidents have been using that for part of their political motivations, but they're all working collaboratively, claiming that it means make America great again. But it's actually tying in to the Church of Satan. And Donald Trump has also used MAGA as his promoting, if you like, to be elected. Now, the Church of the Baphomet, in this picture, when you research it, it links to the Knights Templar and therefore the Freemasons and transgenderism and transhumanism. Go and look at this yourself. Search Baphomet and you can read all about it. And of course, eventually, I believe that will, or the plan was to lead to transhumanism, the merging of biological life forms with man-made technology as part of a satanic attack against humanity under a full digital currency control. So let's, jumping around. So let's continue with the rest of the document. So we got to page 44, and of course, those of you that are on my relevant messaging groups will receive this document, so you can have it in front of you and verify it all. And we were looking at Gatco Kids LLP. Okay, bearing in mind we're talking about international child trafficking and the torture of children for their blood, which is clearly a part of this. On the right, this director within the company links to the Close Film Sales and Leaseback 2004/5 company. That is featured throughout the fraud. I haven't focused on it, but it is there. And that now dissolved on the 2nd of May 2024. And you can see the company in the registered office address, FRP Advisory. That also links into the fraud in previous research. And notice the King's Orchard address and Queen Street. They're using addresses with royal affiliations within them. It's all the way through the fraud. On the left there, you can see that Roy Addison on the left links to the Royal Television Society. Now that then, of course, makes the link to the royal family again and the entertainment industry, which is key to all of this because it enables them to suppress humanity and the masses through the media, through the television, through film, music, etc. And also the ability to use mind control techniques. And if you don't believe in this, go and research MK Ultra and read all about it using pharmaceuticals, subliminal messages, radiation and other methods to get people to act in a way they wouldn't. They've even used it, according to the research, on people to get them to carry out assassination attempts against their free will. Okay, this is real, guys. Now, MK Ultra supposedly stopped the experiment on the masses in 1973. That's when my sister was born. I'm going to come to this a little bit later. In 1977, I was born. And that same year, very significant things happened. So go and research this. Look at MK Ultra, read further down. You'll see that 20,000 MK Ultra documents were released, I believe. Also, when I research MK Ultra through the company's house records, it links to a Masonic building in Gillingham in Kent, right near where I lived and near where I was born, to my school where I went to, called Thomas Aveling School in Rochester, and then to Waterman families. Okay, remember my surname is Waterman, and it appears to my dad's adoptive family. Now, information shows that they associated with the Cray twins, which are going to be key to this, and I suspect were involved in the murder of the real heirs to the throne. Now, when you research further in through that, it then links to the rapid response teams down, that then link very quickly to my wife's family, who are linked to the Freemasons, and I didn't know, down in Dorset, 3.5 hours away from Kent. Okay? And they are connected to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, the building where I bought a flat, not knowing what it was part of, and linking to international government fraud. Also, in 1977, according to the research, the Albert Pike document letter was removed from the British Museum Library. This was a letter written by high-level Freemason, according to the research, Albert Pike, to Mazzini in 1871. Okay, remember, Companies House started in 1844, and they're the ones creating all these criminal fraudulent entity companies that link back in with the Church of Satan. So that letter was written in 1871 and set out the 3 world wars. Now, that was supposedly removed from public display in 1977. Also that year, the year I was born, is when the Stargate project, which is about remote viewing, you can go and look at this, was supposedly started involving the President of the United States, Jimmy Carter. It's also the year, which is now becoming relevant with some other evidence that you'll see, the year that Star Wars, the movie, was created, the first one, called A New Hope. Now, I had information that George Lucas, now you've got to take this with a pinch of salt, but I think we've got to start realising that nothing is off the table with all of this now, with the amount of corruption and mass deception linking in with this, and this is a spiritual war between good and evil that we're now looking at here. Supposedly George Lucas was given that idea by telepathy. Now that then links in with Stargate and the remote viewing element of things, and Donald Trump has just announced the Stargate Project Limited on the 21st of January 2025, the day after he became the president. Donald Trump is involved in this. Okay, according to the research, his golf clubs link into this, and we're going to come to that a little bit later. On the left there, David Allenby links to the Invicta Film Partnership, which again features in the fraud a lot, and that's dissolved on the 4th of July 2023 as I was exposing the fraud. Now, within the closed company, you have a name of Caroline Susan Betts, and I suspect that's very relevant, and I'll say why in a minute. But when you go into this director, Marcus Bemrose, he links to Owen Film Partnership. So you have Betts and Owen right next to each other. Now, I think this is incredibly relevant because in Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited is a director called Diana Betts. She lived in the building the same as Anthony Roberts and myself when I started identifying this. And Diana Betts was the liaison with Stephen Owens, okay, from Owens and Porter, who were the managing agent for Exbourne Manor and Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. Now, when I was starting to identify what was happening and Anthony Roberts resigned, I became, if you like, the acting chairman, trying to establish exactly what had gone on. And Diana wanted to have involvement with the communication with Stephen Owens. And we went to a meeting with Stephen Owens, who had been managing the building, and there'd been serious issues. There'd been no fire risk assessment for 3.5 years since 2017, the year of the Glenfell Tower, which will all be, I suspect, tying in to this. And I actually suspect that that was a deliberate satanic attack linking into the fraud. And there's evidence starting to be built in relation to that. And at that meeting, I obviously wanted to discuss the issues with the building, the finances and the fire risk assessment. And Stephen Owens refused to even have any discussion with me and resigned immediately. Now, Diana apologised to Stephen. Apologised. Now, they'd been managing the building where there'd been no fire risk assessment. And I established that later that it was over £167,000 missing from others paying into the company. So here we have Betts and Owen right next to each other, and we're going to look at this Owen Film Partnership now. And remember, the entertainment industry is a massive part of this because the Fleming family, Deborah Fleming was the person that initiated my removal from Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited as a director for refusing to file forged bank documents. She links to the entertainment industry via Ian Fleming, who wrote the James Bond books and therefore the movies came from it. She's also linked to the international energy industry via Tesla and JP Morgan, who was involved in the financing, and also the pharmaceutical industry via Alexandra Fleming, who was involved in the creation of the penicillin. Now, Deborah Fleming, and we're going to look at her a bit later, was the chief executive for the NHS for Hampshire, Dorset and Isle of Wight. Now, Isle of Wight is where the first communication mast was installed in relation to Marconi, who was involved in that. Now, remember, I think we're looking at a major threat from the directed energy from the cell towers in all of this. And we've already established evidence tying the Madeleine McCann case in and Gerald McCann in relation to the research on the body from the cell towers. So anyway, let's look into this company, Owen Film Partnerships. On the overview, you can see Turk and Connell company, and the company dissolved in January 2022. So that was as I was starting to ask questions about the finances of Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. And Tutankhamun, when you research it on Companies House, just typing in Tutankhamun, Companies House brings up Tutankhamun Trustees. Here's that company based in Edinburgh. Okay, this is where the oldest Freemason lodge in the world is based. This is very important. And the Freemasons are now being tied to this satanic cult, the abuse, murder and torture of children for their blood. And the original name of this company was Dundas and Wilson Trustees Limited. And you can see the two dates here. And this is the reason I mentioned the email in relation to Princess Diana and King Charles. Because, first of all, in 1955, this company was created. That is the year that that Disneyland resort opened in America, and you can see it here, 1955. This becomes very relevant because that ties in with the murder or apparent murder of the real heirs to the throne in Blackpool in late 1950s, early 1960s, according to the evidence and information I have. Now, Blackpool Pleasure Beach, when you research it, was actually the influence for Walt Disney to open the resorts in America. It also ties in, so this apparent murder of the real heirs to the throne involved a visit by Walt Disney to Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Okay. When you research Blackpool Pleasure Beach through the Companies House records, it goes straight back in to all of the relevant companies that we're talking about, including links to the Archbishop of Canterbury, back into Russia, back into the international government fraud, and back to Export Manor Freehold Limited and the Flemings, all of the same companies. Now, of course, we're talking about Disneyland, created for children, linking now to international child trafficking. So that was the date that Disneyland opened in America. In 1997, some significant things happened. And Dundas and Wilson, by the way, links to Donald Trump. So his Scottish golf clubs linked to Dundas and Wilson through the research. And then almost immediately you start finding connections to Jimmy Savile, the abuse of murder and murder of a child, at least one child, that the report I've seen, and abuse of two children when they were young, linking to Jimmy Savile and the Freemasons very quickly via that research, and the royal family. So what else happened in 1997, that date that company changed its name? Well, Princess Diana died on the 31st of August 1997. A few days after this company changed its name. And she, as you probably are aware, she supposedly died in an accidental car crash in a tunnel in Paris on that date. What else happened in 1997? Well, the original founder of the Church of Satan died on the 29th of October 1997. Now remember, we've got irrefutable links now to the Satanic Church and the Satanic Temple United Kingdom Company, which is where we've come in from all of this evidence. And here it says that when he died, family members stated that he died on October the 29th, but for some reason his death certificate lists him as having died on October the 31st, Halloween. Remember, we're talking about satanic cults in this. That was probably them trying to symbolise a connection to Halloween. Back in later in 2022, which we're going to come to later, as I'm exposing the fraud, Elon Musk wears a Baphomet on his chest to a Halloween party. And the Baphomet, remember, is the symbol of the Church of Satan. So here's an article from the 31st of March this year, so only a few days ago, and it's talking about Al Fayed estate faces legal action from alleged victims, and this is in relation to sexual abuse and rape. You can see some of the information here. The women are pursuing compensation under personal injury claim. The letters of claim, which have been sent to the representative Al Fayed's estate on behalf of the women's behalf, signify the first formal steps to the civil legal process prior to the start of the court proceedings. Now remember, Princess Diana was according to the research, in a relationship with Al Fayed's son. And Mohammed Al Fayed, is linked to Harrods, that we're going to come to in a minute. Reading on, it says, since the documentary, Al Fayed, Predator at Harrods and podcast, uncovered widespread allegations of abuse from former Harrods employees. The BBC has heard from close to 80 women that shared their own experiences. The earliest account of abuse heard by the BBC stretched as far back as 1977, the year I was born. And a number of women described being recruited by Al Fayed under false pretenses before being sexually exploited by him. The Metropolitan Police have said more than 100 alleged victims have contacted them to say they were sexually abused by Al Fayed. They are currently reviewing a total of 21 allegations made before he died in 2023. How convenient. He supposedly died in 2023, and now the reports have been coming out in relation to him. Now, I suspect they're claiming many people have died when potentially they haven't, as part of this satanic deception against humanity and the pressure they're under to investigate the crimes. But I suspect that it will be used to remove, alter and conceal evidence in relation to the larger issue of this fraud deliberately facilitating the blood taken from children, tying in to the satanic cult. So we have to consider here, did Diana find something out about this? Did she confide in Al Fayed, not realizing the scale of the problem that humanity is looking at here? Here's an article in relation to Mohammed Al Fayed being investigated, coming out in November 2024. Interesting, only as the fraud is being exposed. A huge cover-up, I suspect, trying to hide all of the evidence. So let's have a look at Harrods. Now remember, Al Fayed and Dodi were linked to Harrods. So a research on Companies House brings up various companies. Harrods Limited. And Harrods Limited has it's an old company. So it was created in 1889, 45 years after Companies House started, I think. No other names on the overview at the bottom, so no other names have been registered by our government, the United Kingdom, by Companies House, and yet it's the incorporation document has Harrods Stores Limited. So it's a criminal, fraudulent entity company deliberately created by the United Kingdom government because they have forged the register and put a false name against the register. Into the people record, we have this person. And you can see here, he's linked to Qatar Investment Authority. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Obviously in Qatar. He was born in 1974, 3 years after the World Economic Forum, and appointed in July 2022, a very important year. This is the month that Anthony Roberts resigned. This is the month that Elon Musk's brother purchased a drone company, tying in with all of this. Okay, an international satanic deception against humanity. I suspect they were going to try and convince everybody of an alien invasion to then lead to the removal of billions of people, because now they're fully exposed. Okay, they'll be looking at silencing the masses because they know they're fully exposed and they don't want to face the consequences. It's also the same month when the Georgia Guidestones were damaged in America, and they were supposedly put up as part of a representation of an apocalyptic event, potentially nuclear event, by mankind. And when you research the Georgia Guidestones, they go straight back pretty much to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. You can see he's Italian, and I'm now making links to the black nobility, tying in with the Vatican and Italian mafia, very likely, and the families there, and the country of residence is Qatar. So he connects to Harrods Group Holdings Limited. On the left, you can see Qatar Investment Authority in the address. So here's Harrods Group Holdings. And you can see the previous company name was Qatar Holding UK Limited. And on the incorporation document is Sevenside Limited. That links to the research of David Cameron and Tony Blair. Recent articles talking about Qatar. On the 3rd of December, King hosts state banquet for Emir of Qatar with the Beckhams attending. David Beckham, after I found evidence linking the Spice Girls Limited from the terrorist attacks, through the Company's House research at the Nova Music Festival, it links to the Spice Girls Limited. Within a week of me publicising that, David Beckham was at the World Economic Forum, supposedly representing himself as an ambassador for children. When I researched more into the rapid response and the link to MKUltra, found the company David Beckham Limited with his name on it. Now, that was the 3rd of December. There's other articles here. So the King hosting this event for the ruler of Qatar. Now let's have a look at Qatar. Also, when you research David Beckham very close, there's loads of burger companies, and we're going to be coming to that a little bit later. So this is the leader of Qatar, and he was born in 1980, the year that the Georgia Guidestones were erected in America. And he was the Emir of Qatar, reigning since 2013, the year after supposedly the God particle was created by CERN, the Hadron Collider, and the research through Company's House links CERN Limited very, very quickly to Exborn Manor Freehold Limited. So we had the King holding this party for the leader of Qatar, as I'm exposing the fraud. Now, he was educated, the leader of Qatar was educated at the UK's Sherborne School International College in Dorset. In Dorset, remember, this is where this all started for me, in Dorset. Now, Sherborne has featured quite a few times throughout the fraud, in relation also to the threat of directed energy, I believe, linking very closely to the Freemasons and the royal family, and to Jimmy Savile. Now, Sherborne is also where my wife's employer, Charles Sherwin, was, or possibly still is, a dentist. When you the research surrounding Charles Sherwin links to island companies tying in with the Virgin Foundation. Now, Virgin was founded by Richard Branson, and Richard Branson has been named on the court papers, I believe, for Jeffrey Epstein, international child trafficking. He's also got an island right near Jeffrey Epstein. But the Qatar leader was also educated at Harrow School, where he sat his A-levels in 1997. He then attended the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, graduating in 1998, 3 years before the World Trade Center disaster. He's got a huge link to military. You can see on the left there, connected to the armed forces. And here it confirms links to football clubs. And you can see that in 2022, it mentions Qatar hosting the FIFA World Cup, I believe. Same year, remember, that this is all starting to be exposed. And he's also linked to the Olympic Council of Asia. So another link now to the Olympic Games. And remember, when you research MKUltra, it goes through from my dad's family, adoptive family connections, via MKUltra to Olympic Games companies, football companies, David Beckham's company, and then links very quickly to the rapid response teams, which then tie in with my wife's family in Dorset, who had connections to the Freemasons, and we're going to come to that later, and Exborn Manor. He also has heavy involvements in the United Kingdom. You can see he heads the Qatar Investment Authority, board of directors under the leadership. The fund has invested billions in British businesses. It owns large stakes in Barclays Bank, connected to the fraud, Sainsbury's, connected to the fraud, and Harrods. In fact, all supermarkets are linked to this international government fraud. Many of them are criminal, fraudulent organisations as part of this satanic control. And of course, that means they're able to poison the food and commit very serious crimes against humanity. Now, people leading the farmers' protests that I've found are linked to the fraud, this is specifically the bowler hat farmer, are refusing to use the evidence of the fraudulent criminal supermarkets. Now, of course, that would be absolute gold dust for the farmers markets, who are supposedly trying to get us back to local produce, when in fact, when you research Mark the Bowler Hat farmer very quickly, he links into the same military companies that we're going to be looking at in a minute via the companies he's part of. He also, the leader of Qatar, owns 95% share, of Europe's fourth tallest building, the Shard. And he has connections here to educational establishments and other various important areas within Qatar and the United Kingdom. So that is very important, because obviously the educational establishments then tie in with the child trafficking. On the right, within the Harrods Limited Company, James Healy connects to Harrods UK Limited on the left. And looking at Harrods UK Limited, it was started in 1985, the same year, that Swift Incorporations Limited was created. And we're going to look at that in a minute. And it's got exactly the same name that links to Swift Incorporations Limited, Mavis June Latter, that links various areas of the fraud. Not just the same company, everybody, the same name. And that connects Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited via that name, and we will see that later. On the bottom you can see Jordans and Sons Limited, a criminal fraudulent entity company started in 1965 that was started the year before the Church of Satan was founded. So we're talking about Diana here. So all of these connections, and there's so much more. I'm going to have to do more work on this, because the link to Harrods is massive to the fraud. But before her death, Princess Diana and Dodi Fayed were staying at the Ritz Paris Hotel and had dinner at the hotel's restaurant before leaving for Dodi's apartment, then later died in the car crash. In the Harrods Limited Company, you can see Mohammed Al Fayed here. And he was appointed before 1991. Now, I've been wondering why this date is so important through this, because quite often it will say that, appointed before 1991. Well, that is around the time, I believe, that Companies House became an electronic register. But it's also the time of the Gulf War, 1990 to 1991. So I suspect that is what ties in with the 1991 date and the connection to the Middle East. An international collaborative deception against humanity, tying into a staged conflict in relation to this international government fraud. Everything is about this fraud, because it's worth trillions through taxation and other financial institutions, but also deliberately maintains and facilitates the international conflicts for them to defraud the public, but also capture children from those conflicts into the child trafficking, and then feeding the blood sacrificing, the organ harvesting, and the awful crimes that we see in relation to all of this. And his nationality is Egyptian, which again is very important, because there's connections to Egyptian companies, and you'll see in my Julian Assange document that the Flemings link very quickly to ISIS companies. Now, ISIS has two important meanings. First of all, I suspect they used that as a staged, falsified group to blame terrorist attacks on, and this links into the World Trade Center disaster. But also, ISIS was the name of a goddess in Egyptian, ancient Egyptian beliefs. And when you research the pharaoh belief, there was a resurgence of it in the 1920s and 30s. Come back for in fact, no, we just mentioned this, the Ritz hotels. We've just mentioned that is where, just before Diana died, that's where she was. And we've come in from Mohammed Al Fayed, and he's linked to the Ritz Hotel Limited, created in 1896. And no other name registered on the overview. You can see the bottom there. There's no other companies that be listed here if anything else has been registered legally and lawfully, and it hasn't. And here we have the company name on the document as the Ritz Hotel Syndicate. So it's a fraudulent criminal company and should never have been trading. Come back for the next part, please.